All right, they're just horrific scenes coming out of Syria of an apparent chemical attack, and they've drawn international condemnation. The question is now, well, what action should be taken against Syria's Assad regime to prevent attacks like these from happening again? Let's get the bottom line with CNN Chief International Correspondent Christiane Amanpour. If the reports are to be believed, Israel sent some bombs down into a Syrian base in response. What kind of military action do you think would make a difference here?
Well, look, first and foremost, it can't just be missiles in reaction to one attack. On the other hand, it had to have a response. This is a violation of international law, and it is one under all the Geneva Conventions and all the international humanitarian law that demands a response. Chemical weapons are prohibited. We do know, even at this moment, that all the allies of President Assad, whether they are Russians or whoever they might be, are doing what they always do under these circumstances, and that is muddying the waters and claiming that no chemical weapons were used. No matter how you define chemical weapons, whether it's a nerve agent, whether it's an actual chemical gas, or whether it's chlorine, which does have those same properties and is banned under international law. You know, this is the same pictures, the same thing that we've seen in the past. And this has been going on for years throughout this Syria war. So there obviously needs to be a strategy. There needed to be a response. We don't know because Israel has not obviously confirmed it. It never does. But former senior Israeli military chiefs and intelligence chiefs are saying that it could only have been Israel or the United States, that as far as they were concerned, this base that was hit is not just a Syrian base, it is a Syrian-Iranian base. The Israelis say this is the base from where the drone 2 months ago took off and then was shot down, if you remember, and that they are, above all, concerned about Iran's expanding influence and sending any weapons into Hezbollah in Lebanon in any way threatening Israel. But also, other Israelis are saying that a chemical attack, and you can imagine, of all people, the Israelis would be incredibly sensitive to this outrage, demanded an immediate response.
So, Christiane, I mean, when we look at these videos, okay, it's gut-wrenching. I mean, we see kids struggling for breath. We see their bodies foaming at the mouth. And so it feels, you know, to the layman, something has to be done now. So can you explain why Syria, in particular, is so complicated for the international community?
Yeah, look, Syria is now, if you look at a map, and we were talking about this just a few days ago in response to President Trump saying he wanted his troops out now. There are some 2,000 U.S. troops who've been, engaged in the battle against ISIS. And we said, look at the map. Syria is now a proxy war for major world powers. The United States, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all of these groups that have militias, military, armies on the ground. It is a big, unholy mess. And the fate of Bashar Assad is seesawing back and forth. The United States says, well, we can't have him there. And then they say something different. The Russians say, well, we can have him there. We need some kind of political solution to this. But nothing has worked because there has been no united actual endeavor, either for a political solution to this or a military solution to this. It has started now the 8th year of this war. It started in March of 2011, and it's now in its 8th year. And it has, responsible for these unbelievable waves of refugees into Europe, which has created this backlash against refugees, this populism. It's had a major effect on politics all over the West, from Europe to the United States. But also, it is the most vile use of weapons and mass slaughter of civilians that we've seen since the Bosnia War. It is relentless, relentless, relentless. Hundreds of thousands of Syrians have been killed, and millions of them have been turned into refugees. And this just continues with the actors on the ground, those who are the most powerful, winning. And this has got to have some kind of coordinated, smart, strategic vision if it's going to be anything other than a knee-jerk response. Because remember, this time last year, and the White House just celebrated or commemorated a year since President Trump actually did deliver missiles attack when it happened this time last year. But in the interim, it happened again, smaller, but it happened again. And so this guy, Bashar Assad, gets no lessons and no hurt. And then to have President Trump and have this public discussion about pulling out U.S. troops last week, as you saw, the tweet from John McCain suggested that that may have emboldened him. Frankly, he's emboldened in any event.
Yeah. Christiane Amanpour, always great to get your context on all of these things. Thank you very much.
Yeah.